Hello and welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so today we've got a mission that feels, well, deceptively simple, but it's actually foundational. We're diving into a stack of resources, all focused on the language we use to structure our lives. You know, daily routines, the things we have to do, and then that really important other side, leisure time.
Right.
And this isn't just about like memorizing vocabulary lists. We want to really unlock the framework, how you actually share your day, your existence, turning simple words into something meaningful.
That's exactly the right way to put it.
Yeah.
And for you listening, if you need knowledge quickly, but thoroughly too, this deep dive is really your shortcut. We've pulled together some core teaching materials, guides specifically about daily life, and we're going to analyze them.
Okay.
But with a focus not just on the words, but the nuance, the sequence behind how we talk about our day. It's about getting how this communication actually works.
And these sources we're using today, they're extracts from guides on English vocabulary for daily routines and free time.
Right, instructional stuff.
Exactly. So they lay out the vocabulary, the sentence patterns, even practice dialogues. It gives us this really clean sort of step-by-step structure to dissect.
Which is perfect for analysis, actually.
Yeah.
It strips away the messiness and lets us see the architecture underneath. And what's fascinating, I think, is just how much precision is needed, even for the basics, like describing your morning.
Yeah.
We tend to think of it as just, morning routine, one block.
Yeah.
But the language itself forces you to break it down, step by step, meaningfully.
Okay. And that precision, that breaking down, that brings us to what you called the aha promise for this deep dive.
Exactly. We're going to highlight that clarity you get from understanding these sometimes really small distinctions.
Like the two verbs for the morning.
Precisely. The difference between two verbs everyone uses every single morning. Get that right and you sound accurate. Get it wrong or just ignore it and you sound, well, vague.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's unpack that. Let's jump straight into the essential architecture of these daily routines. Right, so first things first, we have to tackle the mandatory stuff, the actions that form the backbone of the day out of necessity. When you're describing your day to anyone, could be a coworker, could be, I don't know, a doctor, you're relying on this core set of verbs. They define the start and the middle of the day.
And if you look at their function, these verbs, they're not really optional, linguistically speaking. They are the framework.
What do you mean, not optional?
Well, if you leave one out, the listener implicitly wonders, okay, what happened then? Did you just skip breakfast? Did you not get dressed? They establish a kind of baseline credibility and structure for your narrative.
Got it. They set the stage before you even get to the parts of the day you actually choose.
Exactly, before choice comes in.
So let's look at the key verbs. Our sources listed about 15 core ones. We can maybe group them.
Yeah, grouping helps see the flow.
Okay, so maybe the waking up and getting ready cluster. Things like wake up, get up, brush your teeth, take a shower, get dressed.
The essentials to become presentable and functional.
Then there's eating and moving. So have breakfast, go to school, or go to work.
Sustenance and commute.
Right.
Then the actual workday block.
Start work, have lunch, finish work.
The core obligation period.
And finally, the winding down part. Go home, have dinner, maybe watch TV, and go to bed.
That sequence is so important. It shows how, in English at least, we tend to describe the day as these chunks of obligation punctuated by meals, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And think about the subtleties in there. Like the source uses take a shower.
Okay.
Which is way more common in this routine context, at least in American English, than say, have a bath.
Right. Have a bath sounds more leisurely, like a weekend thing, maybe.
Exactly. Take a shower implies speed, efficiency. If it's that gotta get to work timing, using have a bath immediately signals a different pace, a different priority. Tells you something about the person's morning.
Huh. Didn't think of it that way. And what about the have verbs? Have breakfast, have lunch, have dinner.
The consistency there is key. Using have for all three makes them feel like standard scheduled events, non-negotiable fixtures in the daily routine. It simplifies how we talk about eating throughout the day. It's just what you do.
It streamlines it. And you also see that clear journey to and from work. Go to work, then start work, later finish work, then go home.
Right. The language explicitly includes the transition, the commute as part of the structure. Even if it's just sitting on a bus, it's a recognized block of time in the narrative.
So this list, these 15 or so verbs, they really give you the quickest story arc for the necessary part of your day. It defines your responsibilities.
It does. But like you hinted at earlier, the real nuance, the first key to precision, lies right at the very beginning of that list.
Okay, yes. Let's spend a minute on this because it seems small, but you're saying it's critical. The difference between wake up and get up.
It absolutely is. And the source materials we looked at, they make a point of clarifying this, which tells you it's a common point of confusion, but also really important for sounding natural and precise.
So break it down. What's the core difference?
Okay. Wake up is purely internal. It's cognitive. Your eyes open, your brain switches on, you achieve consciousness. It's a state of being awake.
Right. Just existing again after sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But get up. That's the action. That's the physical movement of leaving the bed. It's about initiating the day's activities. It's a verb describing motion, commitment.
Ah, okay. State versus action. And you're saying using this distinction actually adds something to the conversation.
Oh, massively. If you just say my day starts at 7 a.m., it's okay, but it's flat, it's vague. But if you say when you wake up versus when you get up, now you're telling a little story.
How so?
Well, that gap between the two, it tells the listener something about you. Maybe about your morning discipline, or maybe you like some quiet time to think, or maybe, you're hitting the snooze button 5 times.
Right. It reveals your relationship with the morning.
Precisely. That time gap is loaded with information about the speaker.
Let's look at the example from the source, I think it was. I wake up at 6:30, but I get up at 7.
Yep, a classic example. That 30-minute difference isn't just like empty time, it's communicating something specific.
What is it communicating?
It's communicating a transition period. Linguistically, it shows a pause between the necessity being conscious and the commitment physically starting the day's work.
So in that half hour, maybe you're checking your phone.
Or thinking about the day, planning.
Or just lying there enjoying not having to move yet.
Exactly. By using both verbs distinctly, the speaker is acknowledging that full human experience of easing out of sleep and into the demands of the day. It's precision, but it's also relatable. It shows self-awareness.
Okay, so we have the essential verbs, and we understand the crucial wake-up, get-up distinction. Now, how do we actually use these in sentences? What's the structure?
The basic pattern here is your friend, and it's super common in English. Subject, verb, object, or in this context, it's usually I verb at time or I verb at 10 location.
So I wake up at 7, I go to work. Simple.
Super simple, but powerful. English relies heavily on this word order. Subject first, then the verb. You anchor that routine verb right after I, and you immediately give the listener the core information they need. It's efficient.
And the examples in the sources show how quickly we build on that, right? We don't just list times.
No, you immediately start adding context. You move from bare minimum, like I wake up at 7 a.m., to something richer, like the source examples, I have breakfast with my family. Suddenly it's social.
Or I go to work by bus. Now we know the method maybe implies something about planning or timing.
Exactly. That simple subject-verb structure is the launchpad. You can easily tack on details about who you do things with, how you do them, where you do them. It lets you paint a much more detailed picture without needing really complex grammar.
You're defining your environment, your social circle, even your habits, just by adding these little phrases after the core verb.
You are. And crucially, this simple structure is also what makes room for personality to shine through. Remember that practice dialogue we saw in the source?
The one comparing routines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one person gives the structured example. I wake up at 6:30, but I get up at 7. Very clear, very precise.
Yeah.
But then the other person responds with something like, I wake up at 7:30 and get up at 8. I'm a little lazy.
Yes, I remember that I'm a little lazy bit.
That's the magic moment. That little phrase is pure personality. It's self-deprecating, it's funny, it's relatable.
And it only works because they first set up the factual timeline using wake up and get up.
Precisely. They use the necessary structure, the time difference, to create the space for that personal comment. The routine facts become the setup for the punchline, or just the personal observation.
So the structure isn't rigid. It actually enables self-expression.
That's a great way to put it. Linguistic precision provides the rails, the necessary framework. So you can then add your own color, your humor, your commentary. You define yourself against or within that structure.
Okay, so we've thoroughly mapped out the mandatory part of the day, the
Yeah.
necessary structure, the obligations. Now, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the escape hatch. Leisure time.
The chosen activities.
This is where it gets really interesting, doesn't it? Because the vocabulary here isn't about necessity. It's about preference, passion, identity, really.
Absolutely. This is the shift from obligation to desire. And this free time vocabulary, it plays such a huge role in social bonding.
How so?
Well, think about it. When you first meet someone, small talk often goes beyond just what do you do?
Yeah.
You ask, what do you like to do?
Yeah.
Talk about hobbies, interests.
What do you do for fun?
Exactly. We connect over what we choose to do when we're not working or fulfilling duties. It's how we signal our tribe, our values. It's the difference between just knowing someone's job title and actually knowing something about them.
It feels like an emotional shift, too. Talking about routine can feel a bit like talking about constraints. Talking about free time feels more aspirational.
That's a great word for it, aspirational. And the language itself reflects that shift. We move away from those structured, often quite plain verbs like start work or finish work towards more engaging, active verbs like play, read, listen, create.
Verbs with more inherent enjoyment baked in, maybe.
Often, yes. Though enjoyment is subjective, the choice is the key factor here. #TAG#B, the catalog of leisure activities.
All right, let's look at the actual activities. The sources gave us a good list, about 12 key free time activities. Let's run through them.
Okay.
We have read books, listen to music, play the guitar, watch movies. Those feel kind of similar, maybe solo or small group activities.
Often, yeah. Low commitment in terms of scheduling with others, perhaps.
Yeah.
More internally focused, regenerative. If you say you mostly read books, it paints a picture, right?
Yeah.
Maybe intellectual, maybe introverted, needing quiet time.
Contrasted with things like meet friends, play sports, maybe dance. These feel much more outward, more social.
Definitely. High commitment, often, especially team sports. Playing sports signals competitiveness, teamwork, physical engagement, needing scheduled time with others. Meet friends is purely social connection. Very different profile from reading.
Then we have things like go shopping. And the source was specific here, adding buying clothes or food. Why that detail?
That's important precision for modern life. Just saying go shopping is vague. Is it enjoyable browsing or is it a chore? Specifying buying clothes points towards leisure, self-expression, maybe trend following. Specifying buying food could be just a necessary errand, or it could be enjoyable gourmet shopping. The context matters. That clarification helps differentiate purpose.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. What else? Go jogging, travel?
Jogging, solitary physical activity, discipline maybe.
Right.
Travel, that's a big one. High commitment in terms of time and resources. Signals, adventurousness, curiosity, financial capacity perhaps.
Yeah.
Very different from, say,
Cook, which was also on the list.
right. Cooking can be creative, domestic, nurturing. It can be solitary or social. It implies a certain focus on home life, perhaps.
And the last couple, dance and play video games. And again, play video games had a note, using a controller or computer.
Yeah, that detail about the controller or computer, it seems small, but it acknowledges the different worlds within gaming. PC gaming versus console gaming often involves different communities, different types of games, sometimes different levels of technical engagement. It's a necessary nuance today.
So even within this leisure list, there's a huge range of commitment levels, social implications, and even technological specifications.
Absolutely. And think back to the examples from the source material where one person mentioned reading and podcasts,
Right, sounded sort of intellectual, self-contained.
and the other mentioned cooking and going for walks.
More domestic, maybe reflective, physical, but gentle.
Exactly. Your choice of which leisure activities you name is a primary way you linguistically construct and communicate your identity to someone. It's incredibly revealing. #TAG#C, analysis of sample sentences.
Okay, so we have this catalog of choices. How do we actually weave them into conversation, connecting them back to the daily routine structure we talked about? Let's look at the sample sentences.
This is where we bridge the gap. We use time markers and context from the routine to frame the leisure activity.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, like, I usually listen to music in the evening. See, you've got the leisure activity listening to music, but it's anchored to a specific part of the daily structure in the evening, presumably after work or dinner. And you've got the frequency word, usually.
Right, so the day's structure provides the when.
Exactly. It slots the choice into the timeline. Or another one. On weekends, I play cricket with my friends.
Okay, so here the time marker is on weekends, signaling a complete shift away from a weekday routine. And with my friends adds that social layer.
Right. The structure changes from the daily grind to the weekend block, and the priority shifts towards social connection and perhaps a higher commitment hobby like cricket.
And what about linking directly from work?
Yeah, there was that example. Sometimes I go shopping after work.
Ah, okay. After work is the trigger. It clearly marks the transition from obligation to choice, and sometimes tells us it's not a rigid habit.
Exactly. It shows the speaker fitting their leisure into the available moments right after the main structure of the day ends.
What's really standing out to me here is how these simple connecting phrases in the evening, on weekends, after work, they do so much work. They provide the context, the justification almost, for when these choices happen.
They do. They prevent the listener from thinking, well, when do you possibly have time for that?
Yeah.
It preempts the question.
It makes the whole description feel planned, intentional, even if the activity itself is just relaxing.
It's sophisticated communication built from very simple blocks.
Yeah.
You're narrating your time management, essentially.
Okay, so we've got the two main building blocks, the necessary routine and the chosen leisure. Now let's focus on putting it all together. How do we link them smoothly in a single narrative about our time? We need those connectors.
Right, the synthesis. Yeah. And the examples we saw show it's mostly about clear chronological sequencing, using simple words to bridge the gap.
Like the straightforward three-part day summary, something like, I wake up at 7, go to work, and in the evening I play football.
Exactly. The conjunction "and" does the basic linking. But notice the time marker in the evening clearly separates the mandatory part, go to work, from the optional part, play football. It creates two distinct phases within the sentence.
Okay. And we also saw time markers acting as triggers, didn't we?
Yes, like, I finish school at 3, and after school I meet my friends.
Right. After school is the key phrase there. It pinpoints the exact moment the obligation ends and the chosen activity begins. It leaves no ambiguity.
Zero ambiguity. You know, the friend meeting isn't happening during school hours. It respects the boundary between the structured time and the free time.
Let's talk more about that boundary, especially the big one, weekday versus weekend. How does the language reflect that split when we summarize our habits?
Oh, the shift is usually quite distinct. When people summarize a typical weekday, the focus tends to stay on efficiency, necessity, maybe winding down from the obligation.
So more like, weekdays I go to work, then maybe I watch TV or listen to music. Leisure feels a bit constrained.
Often, yes. It's framed by the demands of the workday. The leisure activities mentioned might be lower key, easier to fit in after a tiring day.
But then when you ask about the weekend,
the whole focus shifts. The language opens up. It's less about strict chronology and more about priorities, enjoyment, relationships.
now on weekends I play cricket and spend time with my family. It's more of a list of highlights.
Exactly. The syntax changes. It emphasizes the choice and the social aspects much more strongly. It reflects that the structure of the weekend is fundamentally different, organized around personal priorities, not external demands.
So the way we talk about weekdays versus weekends isn't just about listing different activities. It's about signaling a whole different approach to time and priority.
Precisely. You're communicating your social contract, almost. Here's my obligation time. Here's my personal time.
Okay, this is all fitting together, but there's one more layer we need to add to make these descriptions really informative, right? The frequency. How often do we do these things?
Yes. Adverbs of frequency.
Yeah.
Absolutely essential tools. They give the listener the context, the scope. Is this a daily thing, a rare treat, a never ever?
They turn a single statement into a description of a habit or lack thereof.
Exactly. And the sources highlighted the core ones. Usually, sometimes, always never. Simple words, huge impact.
Let's quickly touch on placement first. Where do these typically go in an English sentence? Because getting that wrong can sound a bit clunky.
Good point. The general rule is they come before the main verb.
So I usually watch TV. I watch TV usually.
Right. Except if the verb is to be, am, is, are, was, were, then the adverb comes after to be.
Okay. So I'm always tired after work, not I always am tired.
Correct. It's a small rule, but following it makes your speech flow much more naturally for a native or proficient listener. Precision again.
Okay. Placement noted. Now the impact. Let's take them one by one.
I usually watch TV. This tells the listener this is your go-to, your default evening activity. It happens most of the time. It sets an expectation of high frequency, but it leaves room for exceptions. It signals reliability, but with flexibility.
Okay. Then, I sometimes go shopping.
Big difference. This signals occasional activity. It's not the default. It happens now and then, maybe when there's a specific need or opportunity. Low priority, opportunistic. It manages expectations downwards.
Got it. Now for the absolutes. Always.
I always brush my teeth before bed. This conveys 100% certainty. It's not just a habit, it's a rule, a non-negotiable commitment. It signals discipline, maybe even rigidity, depending on the context.
And the flip side? Never. I never wake up late.
Equally powerful. This sets a hard boundary. It's not just describing what you don't do. It's describing a commitment, a self-imposed rule you adhere to strictly. It often says more about your discipline or values than simply stating what you do.
Wow. So these 4 little words, they really pack a punch. They elevate the description from just listing facts to
reflective self-assessment. You're telling the listener about your reliability, your flexibility, your discipline, your boundaries, all encoded in that one adverb choice. ###C, the application challenge.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. We've got the verbs for routine, the vocabulary for choice, the ways to link them, and the adverbs to give them context. So the final piece, how does someone listening actually put this all into practice effectively?
Right, moving from understanding the analysis to actually using it. The sources had some great practical suggestions, really focused on activating this knowledge.
It's about making it conversational, not just theoretical.
Exactly. And the core of it seemed to be forcing yourself to use the whole framework through targeted questions. The source listed 4 key questions for self-reflection.
Let's look at those. Why these specific questions?
Well, think about what they demand. Number 1, what time do you wake up? This immediately prompts you to use that crucial wake up versus get up distinction for precision.
Okay, yeah, forces the nuance.
Number 2, what do you usually have for breakfast? This pulls in routine, breakfast, sustenance, and that key adverb usually to define your typical habit.
Integrates frequency. Got it.
Number 3, what do you do in the evening? This requires you to make that shift we talked about from the mandatory day structure to your chosen leisure activities.
The transition to choice.
And number 4, what do you do on weekends? This pushes you into that weekend structure, focusing on leisure priorities, social context, maybe those higher commitment hobbies.
So answering these 4 questions thoughtfully basically forces you to deploy all the tools we've just discussed.
Pretty much. They're like mini conversational scenarios designed to exercise the whole linguistic muscle group for describing your time.
And the most concrete suggestion, the one to really build fluency, the source called it the routine diary idea.
Yes, I like that one. Simple, but effective. The idea is write down, say, 5 sentences about your typical daily routine.
Using the necessity verbs, the timings, maybe an adverb.
Right. And then write 5 sentences about your typical free time activities.
Focusing on choice, maybe using sometimes or on weekends, including social context.
Exactly. And the crucial final step isn't just writing it, it's practicing speaking those 10 sentences out loud. Regularly. Daily, if possible.
Why speaking them out loud?
Because it bridges the gap between knowing the grammar and vocabulary in your head and actually producing it smoothly and confidently in real time. It builds muscle memory for the sentence structures and the flow. It turns passive knowledge into active skill. It's the direct path from analysis to application, from theory to conversation. #tag outro. So just to wrap up our deep dive today, we really journeyed through the language of time, didn't we? We started with that essential architecture, the daily routine, the necessary verbs, really hammering home that vital difference between wake up, the mental state, and get up, the physical action. Recognizing how that tiny distinction adds so much precision and personality.
Then we jumped into the vocabulary of free time, the language of choice, and we saw how the activities we name reading, playing, sports, traveling, whatever, how they really define our identity and are crucial for social connection.
Right. And then we looked at how to weave it all together, using those simple sequencing phrases like after work or in the evening to link necessity and choice smoothly.
And adding that critical layer of context with the adverbs of frequency, usually, sometimes, always, never to show habit, flexibility, or firm boundaries.
So what's the big takeaway here? I think it's that talking about something as seemingly simple as your day is actually a really structured, nuanced linguistic act.
Yeah, it's not just a list.
Not at all. It requires precision, careful sequencing, and context setting. How you describe your time is a direct reflection of your commitments, your priorities, your personality, all communicated through these specific vocabulary and structural choices we've analyzed.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener, to maybe mull over. It builds on that idea of boundaries we touched on with the adverbs. We spent a lot of time analyzing the words we use to structure and describe our time, the things we do. But what about the power of the things we implicitly reject or the boundaries we set with negative statements? Think about that phrase again. I never wake up late. That statement tells you so much about the person's internal rules, their discipline, their commitment. The never defines a boundary that shapes their entire schedule, maybe more powerfully than some of the things they do actively choose. The absence, defined by never, is just as informative as the presence. What activities do you define yourself by not doing?
That's a fascinating angle. The negative space in our schedule, defined linguistically, powerful stuff.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the language of daily life and leisure.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.